My mother's voice woke me in the middle of the night, but she'd been unconscious in a hospital bed for 5 days. When I followed the voice, her empty room opened by itself, something inside whispering my name. And when she finally appeared on the street, begging me to run, something else came for her first. Whatever swallowed her that night didn't stop. Now, every time I try to sleep, it whispers for me. It was just past midnight. I had fallen asleep on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes, the television humming with the low blue glow of an old documentary I wasn't even watching. The apartment was cold, still, the kind of quiet that amplifies its own emptiness. Then I heard it. Daniel. My name. Spoken softly. Familiar. Impossible. It was my mother's voice. I sat up so fast my vision blurred, the room swimming for a moment. My first instinct was to believe I had dreamed it, that my exhausted brain had conjured it up purely out of longing. She had been in the hospital for 5 days now, unresponsive, hooked to machines that breathed and beeped for her. She hadn't spoken a single word since the stroke. But I heard her. Clear as day. Daniel, come here. My skin went cold. The voice wasn't coming from my phone. It wasn't coming from the hallway. It wasn't echoing from outside the building. It came from inside my apartment. I stood, slowly, as if any sudden movement might frighten the voice away, or provoke it. The apartment was dim, lit only by the flickering television. Shadows stretched across the walls in strange, wavering shapes. Mom? I whispered. There was no answer. I took a few tentative steps toward the hallway that led to the bedrooms. The temperature seemed to drop with each step, the air growing heavier, thicker, like walking underwater. My breath left faint fog in front of me. The silence settled again. Dense. Expectant. I reached the doorway and stopped. That's when I noticed something small, something I would have missed if I hadn't been looking so closely. The door to my mother's old room, the room she'd slept in whenever she visited, was open. It hadn't been open earlier that day. I hadn't opened it. I knew for certain because I hadn't stepped into that room since the paramedics carried her out on the stretcher. But now, the door was open just enough for darkness to spill out like ink. I swallowed hard. Mom? I tried again, but weaker this time. I could feel a tremor in my voice. And then. There it was again, her voice. Fainter than before, but still hers. Come, here. My legs moved before my mind could protest. Some part of me, the part that still clung to any shred of hope, needed to believe she had somehow woken up, that she had somehow come home, that there was a rational explanation for all of this. But with each step I took, dread blossomed deeper in my chest. I reached the door. The darkness behind it felt almost tangible, as though something inside was breathing very slowly. I pushed the door open with the back of my hand. The room was empty. Of course it was empty. The curtains were drawn. The bed was made. Her slippers were still neatly tucked beneath the nightstand where she had left them before the stroke. Everything was exactly as she had last touched it. And yet, the air felt disturbed, like someone had been there moments before. I stepped inside. That's when I noticed the picture frame on the nightstand, the one with the photo of us from 2 summers ago at the lake. It had been facing the wall when I last saw it. Now it was turned toward the door, toward me. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. The message was clear. Something wanted my attention. And then, from directly behind me, inches away from my ear, Daniel. This time the voice was unmistakably my mother's. This time it wasn't soft. It wasn't distant. It was whispered. Warm. Close enough that I felt the breath move the hair at the side of my head. I spun around, and that is where I will leave page 1. When I spun around. The room was empty, utterly, achingly empty. The only sound was the strained pull of my own breathing, sharp and uneven like I had sprinted up a flight of stairs. I blinked rapidly, trying to force my vision to adjust, to sharpen, to reveal something, anything, that could explain the whisper I had felt against my ear. Nothing. Just shadows, still furniture, and the faint scent of my mother's lavender lotion that clung to the room long after she stopped visiting. I backed away until my legs hit the edge of the bed. I sat down because standing suddenly felt impossible, like my knees had forgotten their purpose. My hands trembled uncontrollably. "Mom?" I whispered again, but for the first time, I didn't want her to answer. Silence. But it wasn't the comforting kind. This silence had weight, thick, pressurized, as though the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to do something. Or waiting for something else. I tried to calm myself, to anchor my mind. I told myself it had to be stress, exhaustion, a half-dream in the hazy space between sleep and waking. That whisper, the warmth. I just imagined it. I had to have imagined it. That's what I thought, until the picture frame on the nightstand toppled forward as if flicked by an invisible finger. It didn't fall randomly. It fell toward me. I jumped to my feet, knocking over the chair beside the bed with a loud crash. The sound startled me so badly I nearly screamed. My heartbeat hammered against my ribs like a frantic knocking from within. "No," I muttered. "No, no, no." That's when I decided to leave the room. Not slowly. Not cautiously. I backed out quickly, refusing to turn my back on the darkness, the nightstand, the shifting air. My hand fumbled along the wall for the light switch. When I found it, the hallway lights burst on, almost painfully bright. I stayed frozen in the doorway, staring into the room. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. But something was there. Watching. Waiting. I felt it as clearly as my own pulse. I shut the door. I didn't latch it, I slammed it shut. The impact echoed through the hallway. I took a shaky breath and turned toward the living room. I needed the television, the light, the noise, anything to drown out the suffocating quiet pressing in on me. But as I stepped forward, something stopped me. A sound. Not a voice. A slow, rhythmic tapping coming from behind the closed door of my mother's room. Tap. Tap. Tap, tap, tap. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. Measured. Almost like a code. Almost like someone, or something, was trying to communicate. I felt a chill creep up my spine so intensely it was almost painful. I backed away from the door, my hands raised instinctively, as if that would protect me from whatever was tapping. "Stop," I whispered. "Please, stop." And it did. Instantly. The quiet that followed was worse. Waiting. Anticipating. I needed to call someone. Anyone. A neighbor. A friend. The hospital. The police. Hell, even a wrong number would have made me feel less alone in that moment. I reached for my phone on the coffee table, but the screen flickered as soon as I lifted it, flickered and then died completely. The battery had been nearly full before I fell asleep. I swallowed a curse. With trembling hands, I plugged it into the charger. The screen remained black. Then, behind me, my mother's voice again. But this time, it was different. Strained. Urgent. Not calling my name, but saying just 3 words. "Do not trust." The voice stopped abruptly, like something had cut her off mid-sentence. I spun around so fast I nearly tripped, my heart slamming against my chest. The voice had come from the hallway this time, not the room. Not the phone. Not a dream. The hallway was empty. But at the far end, the door to my mother's room, the door I had slammed shut, was slowly, silently opening. An inch, another inch, another I whispered, "Mom." But I didn't get an answer. Instead, something stepped out. Not a figure. Not a shadow. Something else. Something worse. A shape that didn't fit any shape. A darkness that wasn't caused by the absence of light but by the presence of something that didn't belong in this world. It stretched unnaturally across the hallway floor, like a spill of black ink moving against gravity, creeping toward me with horrifying patience. And then from within it, my mother's voice again, barely recognizable now, distorted and fragile, "Run." And for the first time that night, I obeyed without hesitation. I didn't think. I didn't look back. I just ran. My bare feet hit the hardwood floor in rapid, uneven slaps as I sprinted toward the front door. I fumbled with the lock, fingers shaking so violently I could barely grip it. I twisted, pulled, slammed my weight into the door, anything to get it open. Behind me, the darkness moved. I didn't hear footsteps, or breathing, or whispers. The sound was indescribable, like fabric tearing underwater, like the world itself was being pulled apart by invisible claws. A slow scrape, deliberate and impossibly close. I threw myself out into the hallway of the apartment building. The overhead lights buzzed, flickered, then steadied into a harsh white glare. For a heartbeat, I felt safe. Then I looked back. The door to my apartment hung open. The interior was swallowed in absolute black, thicker than any shadow should be, like a hole torn through reality. And from that darkness, my mother's voice, faint, nearly gone, but unmistakably pleading, "Daniel, do not let it follow." My stomach twisted. My hands went cold. I took a step backward down the hallway, my palms pressed to the walls for balance. "Mom!" I yelled. My voice cracked. "What is it? What's happening? Are you alive?" Silence. Then the darkness shifted, as though it had heard my voice and turned its attention from her to me. I ran again. I hurtled down the hallway, took the stairs 2, sometimes 3 steps at a time, nearly slipping on the metal edges. My breath tore in and out of me. A ragged rasp that matched the pounding of my heart. On the first floor, the stairwell door slammed behind me with a force that made the railing rattle. I reached the lobby and burst outside into the freezing night air. It hit me like a wave, cold, sharp, real. The normalcy of the streetlights, the hum of distant traffic, the distant bark of a dog, everything grounded me, but only slightly. My legs continued trembling beneath me. I reached for my phone, desperate to call the hospital. My mother, if she was in danger, if she was somehow caught between two worlds, I needed answers. I needed to know what had happened to her in that room in my apartment. The phone finally turned on. But something was wrong. The lock screen background, normally a picture of my mother smiling at the camera, was gone. In its place was a solid black screen. No icons. No notifications. Just one line of text, centered in white: "She is not alone. Neither are you." I dropped the phone as if it had burned me. It clattered on the pavement, the sound too loud in the night. My breath clouded in front of me, quick and shallow. My heart felt like it was trying to hammer its way out of my ribs. I backed away from the phone, unable to tear my eyes from the words glowing on the screen. Then a whisper behind me. Soft. Cautious. Familiar. "Daniel." I froze. Very slowly, I turned my head. My mother stood on the sidewalk a few feet away. Or, something that looked like her. She wore the same hospital gown she'd been admitted in, but stained with something dark. Her hair hung limply around her face. Her eyes, God, her eyes, were hollow, ringed with shadows deeper than exhaustion. They looked like the eyes of someone who had stared too long into something unknowable. Her lips trembled. She took a half step toward me. "Daniel," she repeated. "Run. Mom, what?" She cut me off sharply, the way she used to when I was a child about to touch something hot. "Run. Now." The urgency in her voice left no room for argument. And then I saw it, behind her. The darkness from my apartment seeped out from the corner of the building, sliding across the pavement like oil poured over ice. It stretched toward her feet, reaching, hunting. She jerked her head toward me, eyes wide with terror I had never seen in her, not even during the stroke, not even in the hospital. "Do not let it touch you," she whispered. "Please. I love you. Go." My throat tightened. I wanted to reach for her. I wanted to drag her away from it, save her, bring her back to the world of the living and the light. But then, the darkness surged. She screamed, a raw, piercing sound that ripped through the night, and the shadow swallowed her whole, her form dissolving like smoke in a gust of wind. "Mom!" I choked out. The darkness turned toward me. No eyes. No shape. No reason. Just hunger. I did the only thing she asked of me. I ran. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs gave out, until I collapsed on the cold sidewalk 3 blocks away, shaking and sobbing, the night spinning around me. I don't remember how long I stayed there. But when the sun finally rose, the darkness was gone, along with any trace of my mother. At the hospital, they told me she had passed away sometime during the night. Sometime around midnight. Around the time I heard her voice for the very first time. They said she never woke. I know better. I know she tried to warn me. And I know this, whatever came for her, is still looking for me. And every night since then, just as I start to fall asleep, I hear it. A whisper. Soft. Close. Patient. Daniel. Waiting.